Hey there, everybody. In today's episode, How to Recognize a Cult, we are going to discuss one of the signs, and that is zero tolerance for criticism or no questions allowed, especially toward the leadership. And a lot of people really feel like this is not the case with Jehovah's Witnesses because you can ask questions, they say. And I will demonstrate to you an example that is not entirely true. Because yes, you can go to the elders and say, here, I have a question, and yes, you can have questions in the congregation and go to other brothers and sisters and say, I don't really understand this. They will have an effort. They will make an effort. They will sit down with you. They will show you from the scriptures. At that point, you are supposed to accept what is being told you and just put your faith in Jehovah or put it in a drawer, or maybe the organization will change this one day. But after this point, when it has been explained to you, so you had your one question, your one-time ask, then you will have to accept it. After this point, if you keep asking because it doesn't make sense to you, you will be viewed as a person who is being rebellious, maybe as far as an apostate. And I have a story for that. I knew a brother who is an elder, and he didn't understand a Bible question. Like, it did not make sense to him, even though he was an elder. And he would have deep discussion with all the other elders on the elder body, and it just kind of wasn't resolved. I don't think he ever, thought anything of going further beyond the elder body because his question just kept not being resolved. I don't know what that question was because the shame in Jehovah's Witnesses to openly talk about things, and maybe he thought he would be viewed as an apostate by me. I don't know, the question is the thing. So he ended up writing to Bethel, the headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses, with his Bible question that he could not find an answer to. And even though he was an elder, he didn't realize that what Bethel does is they send a copy of your letter back to your body of elders, in this case, the other elders, and they view you as rebellious for already going a step further to ask Bethel. They don't like that. They want things handled locally, so you're already viewed as kind of like shady. Why are you going beyond the elder body, And as one sister pointed out to me when I had a question that wasn't being resolved, you can write Bethel, but they will start a file on you, which at that point I was like terrified. I didn't want them to have a naughty list of me, which should have sparked in my mind, this is so weird. This is like our hub. Bethel is our hub. That's where all the Bible scholars are. And, they really know their stuff. And why shouldn't I be able to write? You could approach Jesus freely, but you can't approach Bethel. Red flag. So anyways, when the letter of the brother came back to the local body of elders, he did not know about that. And let's call him Connor, for sake of the story, just so I have a name for him, Connor. Connor went to the meeting as usual. Weeks had gone by, and the other elders asked to go into the library with him, which already makes you have hives because you think, oh my gosh, what's going on now? They sat him down, and the first question they asked him was, are you an apostate? At which point he just went blank. He just had shivers. What the heck is happening here? And they pull out the letter that he had written. And now get this, Bethel redacted that letter. They didn't want the other elders to know what this Bible question even was. So weird. So they redacted the letter, but they gave him an answer. So that's kind of weird. Like the brothers weren't allowed to see like his letter, but they saw the answer. And it really sent my friend like in a spiral because he didn't do anything. He's an avid thinker and Bible student, and he just thought about a Bible issue that he just couldn't make sense. And so that's all he did. He wrote to Bethel with a question, and immediately they said, "Are you an apostate?" For what? For studying the Bible? You're supposed to blindly accept the things that are being told to you, even if it really doesn't make sense to you. And that is a sign of a cult. So weirdly, they left him stay an elder, but they kind of had him on the radar, and you feel that, and you can never shake that because you know, especially in congregations where nobody moves and it's the same elder body for years, you feel that they look at you differently. And so do they look different at his wife. They're on the radar now as like kind of going outside of the lines, and that sucks. Really spiraled him into a deep depression. And I remember talking to his lovely, lovely wife, and she said to me, "Yeah, Connor, he's searching for truth," which was so weird to me at the time because I thought, this is so weird. Like, we have the truth. Like, he's an elder. And she's like, yeah, he's like listening to a lot of sermons and Bible speeches and stuff because he's searching for truth. And I didn't even ask any follow-up questions at the time because we're so drilled as Jehovah's Witnesses to recognize something as, you know, alert, danger, don't go there, like this is dangerous territory. So I didn't ask her anything. And it wasn't until years later when I woke up that I revisited that whole incident thinking, oh my gosh, this poor guy went through so much basically on his own. I got to give it to his wife. She was really loving and supportive, but it's just a mess. Personally, I kind of think he probably woke up after that, but can't really leave because the whole family's in it. And I understand that, but something like that, like they're so goofy, he would just have a normal Bible question that they can't handle or can't answer. And here they're waking people up with their awful treatment. And that is so authoritarian right there, where you have to stay in the lines. You have to follow the rules. And it brings us to the other thing. You are not allowed to criticize. So if you speak up at this point and say, hey, this is messed up, you guys, this is not how it should be handled. Like Jesus wouldn't do it like this. You would be on the chopping block because there is zero tolerance for criticism, which brings me to another story. My grandpa was, old timer J-Dub. His mom was in the concentration camp, so they were in it for a long time. But they were never hardcore. They were always more Bible-oriented, not organization-oriented, which brings on a whole lot of problems on its own. And I have that episode of Spiritual Man versus Company Man. I'll link it below because it really wasn't until later I watched an episode on JT, the critical thinker. He had an episode about it. And I thought this makes so much sense. I finally am understanding this now because you're just so confused for such a long time because my grandfather was truly a kind man. He was a good man. He always wanted to do what was right. He just wasn't hardcore strict. And it then suddenly made sense. Of course, he wasn't a company man. He wasn't an organization man. He was a Bible man. And so what happened was they loved everything, especially like 70s, that was like, I would say like the golden age of Watchtower, where my mom says it was really, truly fun when they were going to meetings. It wasn't super strict. At the assemblies, they had the kitchen open and they would cook for people and you met people and there were plenty of young men in there, so people would get married and have awesome weddings. She said it was so fun, and it kind of went downhill after that. But anyways, so they were in it for a long time. They knew all these things. And suddenly the new songbook came out, that gray one. And all the songs had been either changed or taken out. And my mom and my grandfather were just upset about it, especially because the governing body tried to gaslight everyone and say, the songs were so hard to sing, so we made them better. They're now easier to sing. And we're all like, no, they're not. Like, why are you even saying that? You changed the melody of a song that we all know for decades. How's that easier to sing when you change it? Like, for example, From House to House, they changed the melody on that and nobody could sing it anymore. And then we had to have sessions in the Kingdom Hall to practice the new songs. Wait, hold up. I thought they're now easier to sing. Gaslighting 101. And of course, not one person at the meeting dares to say anything or even say, I miss these songs. Like, no, that's a cult for you. You accept, you love whatever they put in front of you without criticism. Well, not my folks. They hated that new songbook. They missed the old songs. One of the songs they took out, I think it was this one. I don't remember the name, but I remember singing it. It was like, light shining bright. They took it out for maybe the reason that the light really never shines brighter, but just changes all the time. Who knows? But it was one of those songs that at the assembly, you had nostalgia singing that. You know, it was a beautiful song. Well, new songbook, we threw that right out. And also my grandpa, he had like nostalgia because a lot of the concentration camp survivors, like my folks knew them and were friends with them. Some were written by these concentration camp survivors. It had a lot of meaning to them. New governing body comes in. They don't care about any of that. Throws them all out. And the weird thing is that you can't even keep listening to the old stuff. If you're moving along with the chariot, you're going to throw all that out, never think of it again. You're moving right along with Jehovah's organization, aka high control religion, aka this is totally a cult because you can't even say you miss a song. So this one sister in our hall, she was like, oh, isn't this new songbook wonderful? And all the new songs are so wonderful. And my mom, she was like bitter at the time already because she just, all the stuff was not making sense for her. She was like kind of a Pimo person in, mind out, and didn't really realize that she was because she was frustrated with stuff. And my mom replied to that sister, no, it's not wonderful. I really don't like it. Plain as day. Not a vicious statement. It's fact. She didn't like it, and she said she didn't like it. And that sister almost died on the spot. I mean, she was waiting for lightning to strike from the heavens. She was so offended by that. And the congregation kind of tagged my mom as like a little bit rebellious because, you know, she would say things like that. But guess what? It was the truth. The new songbook sucked. Why can't somebody say that? And that is a cult for you. You may not criticize the cult. Zero tolerance for criticism and questions. Just go along. Why aren't we allowed to say, why did we need a new songbook? The old one was just fine. And why aren't we allowed to say, these new governing body members are kind of weird. Why are there always weirdos who are being appointed? Like, the last few are just such boring, bland dudes. Like, really? Why don't we have governing body members that seem to represent the whole world? You know, from every continent. And why don't we have governing body members who actually seem like kind people? When I think of Jesus, I think of somebody who is extremely kind and loving. I don't see that in one of the governing body members. And my mom would always say that too. She's like, God appointed these guys. Like, it's kind of weird. But you may not say that in a cult. You have to blindly accept. And so that is one recognizing tool to realize, oh my gosh, this is a cult. You may not criticize. You may not ask real questions, or really, please don't write to Bethel. We don't want you to do that. And it's really true if you think about it. They want us to be criticized as publishers constantly. I mean, I was criticized so much for every little thing. I was criticized for wearing a white dress, a summer white dress to the meeting because I am a used woman who had been married and divorced, so I shouldn't be wearing a white summer dress. Going beyond the things that are written. And I really did think to myself, I'm like, that's not what Jehovah thinks. But whatever. Criticize constantly. Who criticizes the elders? Are you allowed to criticize the elders? Are you ever allowed to question it? The governing body, who are supposed to be people just like us. They're not supposed to be our leaders, technically. They say the organization is led by Jehovah and by Jesus. And the governing body are just mere brothers who are kind, and they're, just really guiding us. Guiding is ruling, y'all. And come on, get with it. They're on top, we're on bottom. Everybody worships them. They're on all the TV monitors, and you cannot criticize them. Are you kidding? It's not like they ever hear any criticism, which might do them good if they would get that. Maybe you could say, hey, you shouldn't be saying, Brother Loesch, that in paradise we have to scoop up dead bodies. That's not very encouraging to the congregation. Maybe we shouldn't say that. And I think part of the reason that they get more outrageous with every talk and every broadcast is because they don't get criticized. Because sometimes you need an annual review and say, your performance as leader, kind of sucky, bro. Or maybe it's time for you to take a school. Maybe they need a governing body school, how to be kind and good leaders or whatever. So yes. So share your stories, please, about how you weren't allowed to question, how you were not allowed to criticize or speak up. I would love to hear it. Share it in the comments, and tomorrow we'll be back with another episode on how to recognize a cult. Thanks for listening.